Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hey Everybody podcast, episode 85, take two. I had a technical difficulty. I got about halfway through it, had a technical difficulty, and thought about trying to edit and that kind of stuff. But my approach to almost everything has always been like, let's try to capture a whole moment, you know. With my music, a lot of the time, what you're hearing, even with the full band, I would say the vast majority of the time, if you listen to one of my records and you hear the whole band, you're hearing all four of us in a room looking at each other playing that song with no edits and no nothing, no auto-tune, none of that. We even do my vocals live. Typically what we do is we do the whole band and my vocal live, and then we go back and we add vocal harmonies and any like kind of keyboard, organ, trumpet, horn stuff. But for the most part, what you're hearing is a four-piece band doing what they do. And I love that. And it's how I approach the podcast too, and a lot of other stuff. Hope you had a good weekend. I had a good weekend. I drove down to Iowa, played a wonderful, wonderful show. It was just so like life affirming and morale boosting and good. People really cared about what I was doing, which always feels really good and is not always the case. I really felt like I was connecting with people and they were enjoying the songs and the stories and the jokes, and it was just working. And I played for 2 hours and it felt great the whole time. And it was awesome. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to get back there soon. It was funny though, because we got there, we drove 4.5 hours. I set up a PA, I played for 2 hours, I packed up the whole PA, and we drove 4.5 hours home. We didn't get a hotel or anything like that, because that sucks so much out of like whatever you made that day. You know, if you can avoid it, I try not to get a hotel. So we spent 9 hours in the car, and about an hour setting up, and an hour tearing down, and 2 hours playing, and that kind of thing. And it was great, and I was happier than a pig in shit. Loved it. But during the show, I said something about living in Appleton and the 4.5 hour drive. And one of the women that worked at the venue was very surprised. She was like, "You guys drove from Wisconsin?" And I guess she thought we lived in Iowa. And we're like, "Yeah, of course, you know, because that's what you do. You drive to the show, you know, wherever the show may be." And I wonder if sometimes the fact that people think that's crazy keeps them from asking me things I wish they would ask me. Like people think, oh, he won't drive to Michigan to play in my living room, or he won't drive, you know, out to Arizona to play my little place. But if there's people there that want to hear my songs, I absolutely will. And I will love it. And here's why. And there's a much deeper, I think, sort of metaphor for living. Whenever anyone is surprised that I would drive 9 hours to play one show, obviously, it would be more convenient if I could string a handful of them together. You know, I've done that before, and I wish I could do that more often. But it's hard to book solo shows in places that you don't have a following. Either they want you to bring a band so you are loud and demand attention, but then like the money doesn't quite work out, or you can come by yourself, but we'll just put out a tip jar, and it's like, I don't know if I can, spend a week on the road hoping for tips, I've done it before though. And I'll do it again. But I love all of it is the thing that I realized that I think some people don't. I think a lot of people, usually at a young age, they have this dream of, I want to play music and I want to travel to do it. And then you start doing it and you realize like, maybe I don't really like traveling that much. And I don't sleep well in hotels, and gas is so expensive. And, I often feel like I drive so far and I work so hard, and then the show's not great and it's just like a waste. And I think that's where the dream starts to lose some of its shine for people. But for me, at the ripe old age of 38, going on 39, I still love all of it. I love driving, being in the car, being on the road. I love getting to a new town and maybe they have a coffee shop or a bookstore, or God help us, a record store. I love the connections that I make with people at shows that feel like really powerful and deep, but they're also brief, and that feels really special to me. And it nurtures my hope for humanity, that like we can connect. Humans, I think, for the most part, are wired to connect. That's why if you see someone in a Tom Petty shirt, there's no reason to go like, hey man, I like your shirt, and then keep walking. But we do almost every time. And I just think it's because we want to go like, hey, I see you and you see me and we're kind of the same, and that's cool. And we're both here and awesome. So I love that feeling. I love the feeling of leaving a place. I love the feeling of like being in a town just long enough to be excited to come back, but not sticking around too long to lose any of that excitement, And I just love moving on and all that stuff. To say nothing of the fact that, my wife comes to most of my shows with me. My son comes to a lot of them, but as he gets older and he has like his own kind of interests and life going, I think we're seeing that dial back a little bit, and that's cool. That's, it's part of the process of him growing up. But my wife still comes to almost all of them. And, it's like a cartoon, this marriage. I tell you, people don't believe us, but it's true. We're coming up on 16 years in June. And on this drive to Iowa, the first 2 hours, we didn't even have music on because we were just talking. I love talking to her about anything. She's the first person I think of when Will Smith slaps someone in the mouth. Don't hit people in the mouth. We're not going to talk about it though, because this podcast has not been about celebrity hoo-ha for 84 episodes. It's not going to start now. We're going to talk about me. So I love everything. I love the drive. I love, finding the gas station that has the good coffee. I love, how funny it is when you find a gas station that has horrible coffee. I love, just all that stuff. So it's great. And I think for a lot of people, music, there's a million reasons why music and art can become a struggle. And a lot of them apply to me. It can be hard to try to break into a new place. And it can be hard to invest like everything you have into a song and then have people not care. And it can be hard to feel like I could put on a better show if this would happen, or if they would just listen, I think they would really like it, but they're not listening. And I don't know how to do what I do if they're not going to listen. But I think for a lot of people, it becomes so much about, it gets narrowed down to, it's good if people react to it the way I hope that they will. And I've been able to, through some effort even sometimes, keep it broad, that like, it's good that I get to write. I get to write songs that I'm proud of. And it'd be great if people liked them too, but it's still good to just write them. And it's good that I get to go on long drives with my wife. And it's good that sometimes, we stay in hotels and we get to eat at new diners and find new record stores and all this kind of stuff. It's all really good. And I was telling my dad that like, what I realized is if you straight up like do the math, if you love all of it, if that 2-hour show had been bad, and I do air quotes around it because like, I don't know, can a show be bad? I don't know. Do I have almost all the control over that, even if it's just about how I perceive things? And, I get to a place and they don't give a damn what I'm doing. And there's a place I can go in my head where I go, okay, I'm getting paid to practice for 2 hours and no one's going to listen, but that's fine. I'll try out some new stuff that might not go great and they won't even notice, and I always remind myself like it's this, or, I worked at a gas station for a long time and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not what I want to do. So I'm thankful to, I try to be thankful to play the bad shows, and I get worked up sometimes, but anyways, I was saying, even if the show is bad or not great, that's 2 hours versus the road trip part that I really enjoyed was 9 hours. So like the vast, vast, vast majority of my day was still really good, And And I know, there's a very obvious metaphor about life and about sort of making your life about achievement and about goals and about like accomplishing stuff that is out of your control. The weird thing about my life is I can't make someone like me. I can't make someone listen to me. I can't make someone like my music or anything. But there's a part of me that feels like I'm a failure if I don't. And it's not possible. It'd be like if I felt like a failure because I couldn't breathe underwater. Like, it ain't up to me, dude. And often the harder I try, the dumber I look. Oh, there's your metaphor. So I think as in life, and on the road and everywhere else, you got to figure out a way to contextualize the failings and the losses, and you got to figure out a way to enjoy everything around it, so that the show or the job or the interaction that you're having is not like the be-all end-all of this day lives and dies based on how this one thing goes. And by the way, that one thing is almost never in my control, and it's almost never completely in my control. There's another person involved. There's a whatever. So I'm trying to enjoy the drive, man. I hope you are too. Let's talk about this band. This band is called the Foo Fighters, or Foo Fighters, and this is their greatest hits. You probably heard the news. I think everyone heard the news before Will Smith stole his thunder, but we're not going to talk about it. That unfortunately, the Foo Fighters lost their drummer. The great Taylor Hawkins passed away, and that's a shame. But he left behind a lot. And for people my age, he was, and they were as a band, and may still be, I don't know, this like ever-present force in the world, in music. They were always doing something. And I've never met anybody. I've met people that don't really care about the Foo Fighters, but I don't think I've ever met anyone who disliked them. And, I own 2 Foo Fighters records on vinyl. I own a lot of them on CD and stuff just because of when I got into them and when they were important to me and that kind of thing. But they have records I just love that for whatever reason I just haven't gotten around to picking up yet. Because again, they're the Foo Fighters and they're just there all the time, and I'll get to it. And then something like this happens and you realize like, I got to pick up some Foo Fighters vinyl. But I have this. We bought it for, during quarantine, we were doing every night, we would listen to records and have Wii bowling tournaments. And we realized we needed some Foo Fighters in that because Ollie was getting really into them too. I was taking my walk this morning with the dog, and I realized that a notable thing about them for me is that like punk rock music is very important to me, and heavy music is very important to me, and loud music is very important to me, and hearing a guy just scream is very important to me. And what I realized is the Foo Fighters song Monkey Wrench was probably the first time I ever heard any of those things. I would consider it to be kind of a punk song. I would consider it to be a very rowdy rock song. And it's definitely the first time I ever heard someone just screaming over a distorted guitar, and you just feel like the urgency and the momentum of it. And you go, yes. And that's why everybody bought The Color and the Shape. Everybody. And I've really, in my old age, I've really come around on the greatest hits records. I used to hate them because I was viewing them the wrong way. I was viewing them through the lens of like, I'm already a fan of this band, and they put out a greatest hits record, and it doesn't have this song or that song. But then my band, my guitar player at the time was like, hey man, I don't really know Tom Petty. And I said, get his greatest hits. Start with the great. He's got one of the best greatest hits collections in the history of time. Get it. And he got me. He was blown away. The Cars have one of the best greatest hits collections of all time. The Counting Crows, the Gin Blossoms, the Clash, Johnny Cash. There's so many really great collections. and to sort of get into a band, and especially a band that like you're very aware of, but like I remember I love the Cars. I have a tattoo of the Cars. They're very important to me. And my wife and I were on a road trip. We were driving up to Colorado, and this was before like streaming and stuff. So you had to have the CD. And I just had them like, I got to hear the Cars right now. And I pulled off the highway to a Best Buy and I bought their greatest hits. And we were playing it. And every song, my wife was like, I didn't know this was a Cars song. And she realized like, I love the Cars too. And I have loved them this whole time. I just didn't know. So if you're new to a band, or if you're familiar with a band, but just aren't sure where to start, a greatest hits can be great. And this one's really, really good. It's missing some stuff I really like, of course. And I quite like some of their recent stuff. They have a record called Wasting Light that I really love. But The Color and the Shape is great. And There's Nothing Left to Lose is great. And also, for people my age, they were such a present force in the music video world that sort of came and went in my lifetime. I feel like I was born into a world that didn't really have music videos. And then my son was born into a world that kind of doesn't have music videos. And that's a weird thing. But the Foo Fighters were always there. And it was always like funny. And there's such a good example of like how to do this, how to become the biggest band in the world, but still sound like yourself and not take it too serious and have fun. And, you know, so we're going to miss Taylor. We're sad about it, but we're thankful for all his music. And if you're not familiar with the Foo Fighters, this is a great place to start. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. Also, if you're a documentary buff, they have this. It's called Back and Forth, and it's a great documentary about the history of the band, wherein you will realize the Foo Fighters are a supergroup. No one ever really talks about them that way, but dig this. Dave Grohl, singer-guitar player, he was in Nirvana. Pat Smear, their other guitar player, was also in Nirvana, and he was in LA punk legends The Germs. Nate Mendel, their bass player, was in a very influential band called Sunny Day Real Estate. Chris Shiflett, their guitar player, was in a very important punk band called No Use for a Name. Taylor Hawkins, God bless him, he met Dave Grohl because he was the drummer for Alanis Morissette at her peak. He was in her touring band. And even now they added a full-time keyboard player. He was a touring member for like a decade, and he joined officially a few years ago. His name's Rami, and he's from the Wallflowers. Everybody in the Foo Fighters was in at least one other like very important band. And this is great. I liked it a lot. I think when I watch it again now, there will be parts of it that feel a little different pertaining to Taylor. But it's great. And they're great. And we were lucky to have them. And maybe we still will. I don't know. It's hard to say what will happen, and I don't think anyone needs to make any guesses right now. Finally, how in the hell did we do 84 episodes of this damn show, and according to my notes at least, not talk about this man, John Prine? Okay. This is John Prine. It's his first record. It's self-titled. It plays like a greatest hits. His first record has Illegal Smile, Spanish Pipe Dream, Hello in There, Sam Stone, Paradise, Your Flag Decal Won't Get You into Heaven Anymore, Angel from Montgomery. God damn it. That's so good. And then he stayed good the whole time. I think I have every John Prine record but for two of them. Yeah, I think I'm missing two of his like studio albums, and I have all the rest, and I have a bunch of live stuff and B-side stuff and that kind of thing. And on his last record, The Tree of Forgiveness, there's a song called No Ordinary Blue. That's one of my favorite John Prine songs. And he was just good the whole time. And again, he's a bit like a Joe Strummer or a Tom Petty. Like, he affected people and their writing and their approach to writing and their approach to music and their approach to life in such a deep, profound way, myself included. So if you're not into John Prine, or again, if you're intimidated by it, because that can happen sometimes. You hear about a guy and first you're sort of hearing like he's a legend. He's super important, and there's pressure there that you have to like it and relax. But then you find out he's got 30 records and you're like, oh God, like where do you even start? You start right here. This is his very first record that he wrote mostly in his head while working his mail route in Chicago. And like I said, there's 13 songs on this record, and I think 8 or 9 of them could go on his greatest hits. And then just keep going. He stays good forever. And you'll come across songs like, Fish and Whistle, or No Ordinary Blue, or Jesus the Missing Years, or, just, he was so good. And again, we're so lucky to have him for so long. And I miss him all the time. But, I have my John Prine story. I think I've told you before. I'm not going to tell it now. But I have it, and I think about it all the damn time. I think that'll do it. There's a lovely video of Taylor Hawkins. He had an amazing voice. Not everyone knew that. But he had this amazing voice. And very often, because Dave Grohl, of course, is a legendary drummer, they would switch spots and usually do a cover song during a Foo Fighters show. And at the very last Foo Fighters show, they switched spots, and Dave played drums and Taylor sang, and they did Somebody to Love by Queen. It's beautiful. It's really, really good. And it's captured very well. There's multiple cameras. It sounds great. It looks great. Check it out. And yeah, I hope we can celebrate what he left behind. I hope we can feel motivated to leave some stuff behind ourselves. And I hope we don't take any of this for granted, and that we take care of ourselves and treat ourselves kindly and the people around us and that kind of thing. That'll do it, I think. I announced a great show. I'm playing the Shitty Barn in Spring Green, Wisconsin for the 3rd time, which is such an honor. I can't even... It's a legendary place, and you're lucky, supremely lucky, if you get to play there once. When we got to play there the first time, I thought, well, that's it. Like, everything after this is just gravy and frosting, but not together, because yuck. And then we got invited back a second time, and I was like, oh my God, like, it just feels so good, and it's so special to get invited there. And it's a little barn, and it fits about 130 people, and there's no stage, but it always sounds really good. And you go there, and it's just like, it's like being in heaven. It really is. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And they reached out to me and asked if I would come back a 3rd time. And I get to play with Dave Simonette, the singer for Trampled by Turtles and Dead Man Winter, and solo artist, whom I love, and we've talked about on the podcast. And I am so excited and so grateful. I'm just really happy. So it will sell out. If you want to be there, get your tickets like yesterday, because the whole season of shows they do sells out pretty quick. Speaking of grateful, I learned a thing that I'll tell you just real quick in passing. I read an article to get out of like negative spirals, and it's been working for me a little bit. It's a 3-step process. First, you notice that like, oh, I'm spiraling, which I have a tendency to do. One thing goes bad, and then I start thinking about other stuff that has gone bad or could possibly go bad. So you notice that, step 1. Step 2, you just immediately think of something you're grateful for. And it could be anything in the world. It could be a relationship. It could be the fact that, you have your health. It could be this double-bound Japanese vintage modified 60s Telecaster in Fire Mist Gold. I love it. And it has been my thing this week sometimes. Very often it's Tori or Oliver. But the point is, it can be anything. Be grateful for the Pop-Tart you had this morning, or the cup of coffee you're drinking. And then, so step 2 is pick a thing to be grateful for. Step 3 is just think about that thing, how you're grateful for it, or just the thing. Just think about how cool it is for 15 seconds. And they say, like, there's science behind this. Neurologists say, neurologist? That's a thing. Yeah, okay. Dumb. They say, the neurons that fire together fuse together is a line from this article, which is you build paths in your brain and ruts you get stuck in. So if you can train yourself to not spiral and to be grateful and that kind of thing. And gratitude is a really important part of that. And this show and getting invited back to the shitty barn and getting to hear the Foo Fighters and just how loud they were and are. And there's just so much joy behind it. And John Prine, and how funny and deep he was. And there's so much to be grateful for, and that's what I've been doing. And I thought I would share it with you in case, you need the help. Even sometimes if I have a bad show or a hard show, I just try to focus on the guitar sounds so good though. I love this guitar. I love getting to play guitar. I love how lucky I am to own this guitar. Gratitude, man. It sounds simple, but it's not. And it's really, really powerful. All right. I think that'll do it. I don't remember how this podcast started because this is take 2. I don't even know what we talked about today. But I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you soon. And in the meantime, take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. Turn up the Foo Fighters. And be good. We'll talk soon. Bye.